The day I discovered my husband was having an affair, it felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under my life. I thought I had lost everything. What I didn't realize was that God was about to help me find myself again.
Welcome back to God Showed Up Stories. Tonight's story is for anyone whose heart has been shattered by betrayal. The people who trusted someone completely. The people who built a life, a future, and a family with someone they believed would always be there. The people who know what it feels like to wake up one day and discover that everything has changed. Maybe you've experienced betrayal in a marriage. Maybe you've been abandoned. Maybe someone you loved deeply broke your trust. Or maybe you're still carrying wounds from something that happened years ago. If that's you, this story is for you. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who may need encouragement tonight. And comment below. Have you ever survived something you never thought you would recover from? Never forget this. Sometimes God begins rebuilding our lives in the very places where they were broken. All right, let's get into tonight's story.
The day I discovered my husband was having an affair, my entire world changed. One moment, I was living what I believed was a normal life. The next, I was staring at evidence that shattered nearly 20 years of marriage. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, unable to breathe properly. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. Nothing felt real. I kept hoping there had been some mistake, some misunderstanding, some explanation that would make everything make sense. But there wasn't. The truth was exactly what I feared. The person I trusted most had betrayed me. In the weeks that followed, life felt like a blur. I struggled to sleep. I struggled to eat. I struggled to focus on even the simplest tasks. Every room in the house held memories. Every photograph felt painful. Every routine reminded me of what had been lost. Friends and family tried to help. Some encouraged me to fight for the marriage. Others told me to walk away immediately. Everyone seemed to have advice, but none of them could quiet the pain I carried inside. Even my faith felt distant. I prayed constantly, but most of those prayers sounded more like questions than prayers. Why, God? Why would you allow this? Why would someone I loved do this? Why does everything hurt so much? For months, I felt stuck between heartbreak and anger. Some days I cried. Other days, I felt numb. Eventually, the marriage separated. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, I found myself living alone. That adjustment was harder than I expected. The silence inside the house felt overwhelming. There were evenings when I would sit in the living room and realize no one was coming home. No conversation, no footsteps, no familiar routines, just silence. And somehow, that silence seemed louder than anything else. I started questioning everything, not just my marriage, my identity, my future, my worth. Had I failed? Had I missed warning signs? Would I ever feel normal again? Would I ever trust anyone again? Those questions followed me everywhere. Then one Saturday morning, after spending another week feeling trapped inside the house, I decided to force myself to leave. I drove to a local farmer's market I used to love years earlier. I didn't really want to go, but I knew staying home wasn't helping. The market was busy. People laughed. Families walked between vendors. Musicians played nearby. Life seemed to be moving forward for everyone except me. I bought a coffee and sat alone at a small outdoor table. I remember staring into my cup, completely lost in thought. That's when an older woman sitting nearby smiled and asked if she could join me. At first, our conversation was simple. The weather, the market, local vendors, nothing important. But somehow she noticed the sadness I was trying so hard to hide. She gently asked if I was going through something difficult. Normally, I would have changed the subject, but for some reason, I told her the truth. Not every detail, just enough. I told her my marriage had fallen apart, that I felt lost, that I didn't know how to move forward. She listened quietly. Then she shared something that surprised me. Years earlier, she had gone through something very similar. Her marriage had ended after a painful betrayal. She told me she remembered believing her life was over. She remembered thinking she would never feel joy again. She remembered wondering if she would ever stop hurting. As she spoke, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Understanding, not sympathy. Understanding. She knew exactly what heartbreak felt like. At one point, she smiled softly and said something I'll never forget. She said, "The end of your marriage is not the end of your life." I felt tears fill my eyes, because deep down, that was exactly what I needed to hear. For months, I'd been treating this season as if my entire future had been destroyed. But what if it wasn't? What if this painful chapter wasn't the end of the story? The woman continued. She told me about the years that followed her divorce, the healing, the friendships, the opportunities, the unexpected blessings, the ways God slowly rebuilt parts of her life she thought were gone forever. She wasn't pretending the pain hadn't happened. She wasn't minimizing the betrayal. She was simply showing me that healing was possible. That afternoon, I drove home, feeling different. Not healed, not fixed, but hopeful. For the first time in a very long time, I believed there might still be something beautiful ahead. And that small spark of hope became the beginning of everything that followed. Over the months ahead, I slowly started rebuilding. I joined a volunteer group. I reconnected with old friends. I started doing things I had neglected for years. Little by little, I began discovering pieces of myself that had been buried beneath the pain. The betrayal had changed my life, but it didn't get to define the rest of it. And looking back now, I realized something important. God didn't show up through a dramatic miracle. He showed up through a conversation, a stranger, a cup of coffee, a moment of encouragement at exactly the right time. And sometimes that's how God works. One conversation, one step, one day at a time, until eventually what feels broken begins to heal.
If this story touched your heart today, comment below. God is still writing my story. And if you're walking through heartbreak right now, remember this. Betrayal may change your life, but it does not have the power to destroy the future God still has planned for you. Take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who may need encouragement tonight. Thank you for spending this time with God Showed Up Stories. And always remember, God always shows up right on time.